Part 1. The Discovery. The night was cold and quiet, and the wind moved slowly through the empty streets. Carrying dust and silence with it, Armin walked alone near the edge of the city, his hands inside his old jacket, his eyes tired but still searching for something. He did not know what he was looking for. Maybe food, maybe hope, maybe just a reason to keep going. Life had not been kind to him, and the world had slowly forgotten people like him. As he walked past broken buildings and piles of trash, he suddenly stopped. There was a faint glow coming from the distance, soft and blue, unlike anything he had ever seen before at first. He thought it was just a broken light or some kind of reflection, but something about it felt strange. He slowly moved closer, careful with each step, his heart beating a little faster. The glow was coming from behind a pile of metal and broken concrete. Armin pushed the pieces aside and looked down, and then he froze. There, sitting quietly on the ground, was a small child. The child looked no older than 6 or 7, with pale glowing skin and short silver hair that softly moved even without wind. Her eyes were wide open, glowing faintly, but empty. Completely empty. She was not crying, not scared, not even moving. She just sat there, staring into nothing. Armin felt a chill run through his body. This was not normal. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked slowly, his voice soft and unsure. The child did not respond. She did not blink, did not move, did not even react to his voice. Armin looked around, wondering if someone had left her here. But there was no one, no sound, no movement, just silence. He stepped closer and knelt in front of her. "You're alone?" he asked again. Still nothing. For a moment, he thought maybe she was not alive, but then her eyes slowly moved and locked onto his face. Armin stopped breathing for a second. There was something in those eyes, not fear, not sadness, not anger. Nothing. It was like looking into a deep, empty space. The child stood up slowly, her movements smooth but unnatural. She looked at Armin, studying him like he was something new, something unknown. Armin felt uncomfortable, but he did not step back. "Do you have a home?" he asked, trying again. No answer. The child simply took one step closer to him, then another, until she was standing right in front of him. She raised her hand slowly and touched his arm. Her touch was cold, not like normal human skin. Armin flinched slightly, but he did not pull away. The child tilted her head, as if trying to understand his reaction. "You don't talk, do you?" Armin said quietly, still silence. But something strange happened. The child did not leave. She stayed there, standing close to him, as if she had decided something. Armin looked around again, his mind full of questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she here alone? None of it made sense, but one thing was clear. He could not just leave her here. "All right, you can come with me," he said softly. He turned and started walking, unsure if she would follow. After a few steps, he heard something behind him, soft footsteps. He looked back. The child was following him, quietly, without hesitation, like she had been waiting for someone to take her. Armin felt something strange in his chest, something he had not felt in a long time: responsibility. As they walked through the dark streets, the blue glow around her slowly faded, becoming softer, less noticeable. People passed by and glanced at them, but no one stopped, no one cared. To the world, they were just two forgotten figures in the night. But something about this night was different. Something had changed. When they finally reached Armin's small broken home, he opened the door and stepped inside. The child followed without a word. She looked around the room, observing everything carefully. Armin closed the door and turned to her. For a moment, they just stood there in silence. Then, slowly, the child spoke. Her voice was soft, almost mechanical, like it was being used for the first time. "What am I?" Armin's heart stopped, and in that moment he realized this was no ordinary child. and whatever he had just brought into his home might change everything. Asterisk, Part 2. The child with no soul. The room was small and quiet, filled with old furniture and the soft sound of wind outside. Armin stood still, staring at the child, his mind struggling to understand what he had just heard. The child looked back at him, her glowing eyes calm and empty, waiting. "What am I?" she repeated in the same soft, unnatural voice. Armin took a slow breath, trying to stay calm. He had seen many strange things in life, but nothing like this. You are a child," he said carefully, unsure if that answer even made sense. The girl tilted her head slightly, as if processing his words. Child," she said, repeating the word slowly, like it was new to her. Armin nodded, though he was not fully sure himself. "Yes, a child." She stayed silent for a moment, then asked another question. "What is a child?" Armin blinked, caught off guard. He did not expect that. A child is someone who grows, learns, feels, he explained slowly, searching for simple words. The girl looked at him, her expression unchanged. "Feels," she repeated. Armin noticed it again. There was no emotion in her face. No curiosity, no confusion, just empty understanding. "Come, sit," Armin said, pointing to the old chair. The child followed his command immediately and sat down perfectly still, not relaxed, not nervous. Just still. Armin watched her closely. Something was not right, not just strange. "Wrong. Are you hungry?" he asked. The girl looked at him. "What is hungry?" Armin felt a cold weight in his chest. He walked to the small table and picked up a piece of old bread. He placed it in front of her. "Eat this." The child picked it up and looked at it for a few seconds. Then she took a bite. Slowly, she chewed, swallowed, and then stopped. No reaction, no change. "Do you like it?" Armin asked. The girl looked at him again. "I do not understand." "Like?" Armin sat down heavily on the chair across from her. Now he was sure. This child did not feel anything. Not hunger, not taste, not emotion. It was like she was alive, but empty inside. The room felt colder. "Do you feel pain?" he asked quietly. The girl did not answer. Instead, she lifted her hand and slowly pressed her finger hard against the sharp edge of the table. The skin broke slightly, a small line appearing. But she did not react at all. No flinch, no sound, no change in her face. Armin quickly grabbed her hand, pulling it away. "Stop," he said, his voice tense. The girl looked at him again. "What is stop?" Armin stared at her, unable to speak for a moment. This was not normal. This was not human. "Stop means don't do it," he said slowly. She nodded once, like she understood the rule. But still, there was nothing in her eyes. Armin leaned back, running his hand over his face. His thoughts were heavy now. Who was she? What was she? And why did she feel like something was missing inside her? Something important. "Do you have a name?" he asked after a long silence. The girl shook her head. "No name." Armin looked at her for a few seconds. Then he spoke softly. "Then I will give you one." The girl watched him carefully. "Lumi," he said. The word felt simple, but warm. "Your name is Lumi." The girl repeated it slowly. "Lou. Me." For a brief moment, something very small changed in her voice. Not emotion, but something close to it. Armin noticed, but he was not sure what it meant. "You are Lumi now," he said gently. She nodded once. "I am Lumi." The room fell silent again. Outside, the wind grew stronger. Armin stood up and walked to the window, looking out into the dark night. Something about this situation felt dangerous. He did not know why, but deep inside, he felt it. This child was not just lost. She was something else. Something that did not belong here behind him. Lumi stood up quietly and walked closer to him. She looked outside with him, copying his action. "Why did you take me?" she asked suddenly. Armin stayed silent for a moment. Then he spoke honestly. "Because you were alone." Lumi processed his words. Alone, she repeated, another new word. Another new idea, far above them, hidden beyond the clouds. Something moved silently in space. A faint signal had been activated. Cold, precise, and impossible to ignore. It was not random, it was a call, and it had finally been found. Inside the small house, Lumi slowly turned her head. Her glowing eyes flickered for just a second, like something inside her had awakened. Or responded, Armin did not notice, but far away, across the stars. Something had just started searching for her, and it was coming closer, asterisk. Part 3. The Truth from the Stars. The signal moved faster than light, cutting through the silent darkness of space like a sharp blade. It carried only one message, cold and clear. Subject located, far beyond Earth, deep in a region where no human had ever seen. Massive ships floated in perfect stillness, their surfaces dark and smooth. Inside one of them, a group of tall alien figures stood in a circular chamber filled with dim blue light. Their faces were calm, but their eyes showed something else. Something controlled, something dangerous. A glowing screen in the center showed a small image. A child standing beside a human. Lumi, she has been found, one of them said. His voice low and precise. Another stepped forward. Watching the image closely, location confirmed. Primitive planet. Local designation, Earth. There was a short silence. Then the tallest among them spoke. The weapon has awakened. Back on Earth. The morning light slowly entered Armin's small home. Dust floated in the air as the sunlight touched the broken walls. Armin sat on the floor, half asleep. His back against the wall, he had not slept properly. Too many questions were in his mind. Across the room, Lumi stood near the window, completely still, watching the outside world. She had not moved for hours. Do you ever rest? Armin asked quietly, rubbing his eyes. Lumi turned her head toward him. What is? Rest. Armin gave a small, tired smile. It means to stop, to relax. Lumi looked at him for a moment, then spoke. I do not require it. Armin sighed softly. Of course she didn't. Everything about her was different, too different. He stood up slowly and walked toward her. People were moving outside now, living their normal lives, but inside this small room, nothing felt normal anymore. Lumi, he said gently. She looked at him immediately. Yes, where did you come from? He asked. Lumi stayed silent, not because she did not want to answer, but because she did not have the answer. I do not know, she said after a few seconds. Armin studied her face, still no emotion, still empty. But something inside him refused to believe she was just nothing. Do you remember anything at all? He asked. Lumi closed her eyes slowly, for the first time. She did something on her own, trying to search, trying to find something inside. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then suddenly, her eyes opened fast. A faint blue light flashed inside them, and her voice changed slightly. Cold. Mechanical. Designation, Unit 7. Purpose, termination. Target, hostile life forms. Armin froze. His heart started beating faster. What did you just say? He asked, his voice low. Lumi blinked once. The light in her eyes disappeared. I do not understand, she said normally. Armin stepped back slightly. That was not normal. That was not memory. That was programming. At the same time, far above Earth, something entered the planet's orbit. Hidden from human eyes, a long silent ship, moving without sound. Inside it, the alien figures stood watching the planet below. The subject is active, one of them said. Emotional development? Another asked. Negative. Still incomplete. The leader stepped forward, his eyes focused. Then we retrieve it now, before it changes. Back in the house, Armin was still trying to understand what he had heard. He looked at Lumi. You said something about termination. Lumi tilted her head. I did not say that. Armin felt a cold fear slowly rising inside him. But he did not show it. Instead, he took a deep breath and said calmly, "It's okay." He did not want to scare her, even if she did not feel fear outside. A strange silence slowly spread across the area. Birds stopped making noise. The wind slowed down. Something was wrong. Lumi suddenly turned her head toward the door, her eyes glowing faintly again. "Something is coming," she said softly. Armin looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer to him. Unknown presence. Not human. Before Armin could ask anything else aloud, deep sound echoed from the sky, like something heavy moving above them. Armin rushed to the window and looked up. But he saw nothing, only empty sky, still. The feeling was there, strong and heavy, behind him. Lumi stood completely still, her eyes glowing brighter now. Like she was responding to something. Like she was being called. Far above inside the alien ship. A signal locked onto her exact location. Target confirmed. Deploy retrieval units. Back on the ground. Armin slowly stepped away from the window. His instincts were telling him one thing, danger. He looked at Lumi. "Stay close to me," he said, his voice serious now. Lumi looked at him for a second, then nodded. "I will stay." But neither of them understood the truth yet. This was not just danger. This was a hunt, and Lumi was never meant to be saved. Part 4. The hunters arrive. The air felt heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. Armin stood near the door, his eyes moving from the window to Lumi. Then back again. Something was wrong. And now he was sure of it. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. His voice firm. Lumi did not question him. She simply stepped closer, standing just behind his shoulder. Her glowing eyes were fixed on the door. Outside, the street had gone silent. No voices, no movement, no life, even the wind had stopped. Then a soft sound came from above, not loud, not clear, but deep. Like something large moving slowly in the sky. Armin looked up again, but still saw nothing, whatever it was. It did not want to be seen. A faint blue light suddenly passed over the ground outside. Scanning everything, it moved like a wave, slow and careful. Armin stepped back from the window immediately, his heart beating faster. "What is that?" he whispered. Lumi answered in a calm, steady voice. "Search pattern." Armin looked at her quickly. "How do you know that?" She paused for a moment. "I do not know. I just know." That made his fear worse, not better. The light passed again. Closer this time, it touched the walls, the door, and then disappeared. For a few seconds, everything was quiet again. Then came the sound, a low, controlled impact just outside the house, like something had landed softly but with great weight. Armin froze. "They were here. Don't make a sound," he said under his breath. Lumi stood completely still, like a statue. A shadow moved past the window, tall. Not human. Then another, and another. They were surrounding the house. Armin slowly looked around, searching for something. Anything he could use, but there was nothing. No weapon, no escape, no plan, only fear. A sharp beam of light suddenly cut through the door, tracing its edges perfectly. Metal glowed red for a second, then the door fell inward silently. 3 figures stepped inside, tall, thin, covered in dark armor that reflected no light. Their helmets hid their faces, but their glowing eyes were visible, cold and focused. They moved with perfect control, like machines. Armin stepped in front of Lumi immediately. His body tense. "Stop right there," he said. Trying to sound strong, the figures did not react to his words. One of them raised a hand slightly. A soft pulse of energy pushed Armin back against the wall. He hit the ground hard, pain spreading through his body. Lumi watched everything without moving. The figures turned toward her slowly. "Target confirmed," one of them said in a deep metallic voice. "Unit 7 located." Armin struggled to stand up. She's not a unit, he said angrily. She's a child. The figures ignored him completely. One of them stepped closer to Lumi. Return to command, it said. Lumi looked at the figure. Her head slightly tilted. Command? She asked. Your purpose is incomplete, the figure replied. You will return. Armin forced himself up and moved in front of her again. Despite the pain, no, he said firmly. You're not taking her anywhere, for the first time. One of the figures turned its head toward him. You are irrelevant, it said coldly. Armin clenched his fists. Maybe. But I'm not moving. There was a brief pause. Then the figure raised its hand again. Energy began to form around it. Brighter this time, more dangerous. Lumi watched this closely. Something inside her reacted, not fear, but something new, something small. Armin looked back at her quickly. Run, he said. But Lumi did not move. Instead, she looked at him. Why? She asked. Armin's voice softened for a moment. Because I don't want them to hurt you. Those words stayed in the air, simple. But different. The energy in the alien's hand grew stronger. Ready to strike, and in that moment, something changed. Lumi's eyes glowed brighter than before. A soft pulse of light spread from her body. The air around her shifted slightly. The alien figures stopped, just for a second. Unexpected response, one of them said. Armin noticed it. Something was happening. Lumi stepped forward slowly. Moving out from behind him, her face was still calm. But not completely empty anymore. What is? Hurt, she asked quietly. No one answered. The energy in the alien's hand released a fast, sharp blast aimed directly at Armin. Everything happened in a second. Armin could not move in time, but Lumi did. She raised her hand, and the energy stopped in midair. Frozen, like time itself had paused, the room filled with a soft blue light. The alien figures stepped back slightly. Power activation detected, one of them said. Armin stared in shock. Lumi slowly turned her head toward him. Looking at him differently now, not empty. Something was there, very small, but real, and for the first time the weapon hesitated. Part 5. The Awakening. The room was filled with a soft blue light, and everything felt frozen in time. The energy blast hung in the air, just inches away from Armin. Armin stood still, his heart racing, unable to believe what he was seeing. Lumi's hand was raised, her small fingers slightly open. And the attack had stopped, not blocked. Not deflected. Stopped. The alien soldiers did not move for a moment. Even they seemed unsure. Power confirmed, one of them said slowly. Its voice less certain than before. Control unstable, another added. Lumi's glowing eyes moved from the frozen energy. To Armin, he was breathing hard, still in shock. She studied his face carefully. Something inside her was changing. It was not clear, not strong. But it was growing. Why? Did you stand in front of me? She asked softly. Armin swallowed, still trying to understand everything. Because I wanted to protect you, he said, his voice shaking slightly. Protect, Lumi repeated. Another new word. Another new feeling trying to form, behind her. The alien soldiers adjusted their stance. They were no longer calm, they were cautious now. Unit 7, one of them said firmly. Return immediately. Lumi did not turn around. Her attention was still on Armin. Why? Protect me, she asked again. Armin looked at her, confused but honest. Because you matter, he said. Those words hit something deep inside her. A place that had always been empty. A place that was never meant to exist. The frozen energy in front of her hand began to shake slightly. The light around her grew stronger. The alien soldiers raised their weapons at the same time. Threat level increasing, one of them said. Prepare containment. Lumi's eyes flickered again. Inside her mind, something was breaking. Old commands. Old rules. Terminate. A voice echoed faintly inside her, but another voice. Softer, weaker. Pushed against it. Protect. her body trembled slightly. She lowered her hand just a little, and the frozen energy blast suddenly changed direction. It moved away from Armin and hit the wall behind him. Exploding into dust and light, the room shook. Armin stumbled back, shocked. The alien soldiers reacted instantly. 2 of them fired sharp beams of energy toward Lumi, fast, precise, deadly. But before they could reach her, the air around her bent. The beams slowed down, then stopped completely, just like before. But this time, the power felt different, stronger. But unstable. Lumi looked at the frozen beams, her face slightly tense. Something new was happening. Something she could not fully control. What is this feeling? She whispered. Her voice was not flat anymore. There was confusion now. Armin stepped closer to her carefully, despite the danger. That's a feeling, he said softly. You're feeling something. Lumi turned toward him slowly, her glowing eyes searching his face. It hurts, she said quietly. Armin nodded. Yes. Feelings can hurt. The alien soldiers moved again, trying to reposition. Subject is evolving, one of them said urgently. Immediate retrieval required. A larger figure stepped into the doorway. Taller than the others, its presence heavier. More powerful. Enough, it said. Its voice deeper, commanding. Unit 7. You are malfunctioning. Lumi looked at the new figure. Malfunction, she repeated. You were not designed to feel, the leader said coldly. You were created to destroy. Those words echoed inside her mind. Created to destroy. She looked down at her hands, small, quiet, but filled with something dangerous. Then she looked back at Armin. He was hurt, tired, but still standing, still looking at her like she mattered. Destroy, she whispered. The leader raised its hand. Return now, or you will be forced. Lumi's body shook again. Inside her, 2 forces were fighting. One cold, one warm, one empty. One growing. Armin stepped closer. Ignoring the danger completely. Lumi, he said gently. She looked at him immediately. You don't have to listen to them. They don't decide what you are. His voice was calm, but strong. You can choose. Choose. That word hit harder than anything else. Lumi's eyes widened slightly. Choose. No one had ever given her that before. Not the aliens, not her creators, only him. The energy around her suddenly burst outward. A wave of blue light filled the room. The alien soldiers were pushed back, forced to step away. Even the leader paused. Impossible, it said quietly. Lumi stood in the center, her body glowing brighter than ever. But her face was no longer empty. There was something there now, something real. She looked at the alien leader, then at Armin, and for the first time, she made a decision. The power around her shifted, not wild, not destructive. Focused, controlled, and protective. The leader stepped back slowly. It has changed, it said. Armin felt it too. This was no longer just power. This was something else. Something new, something human. Lumi lowered her hands slightly, the light around her calming. Then she spoke, her voice soft but clear. I will not return. The room went completely silent. And in that moment, the weapon was gone, and something else had taken its place. Asterisk, Part 6. The choice. The silence after her words felt heavier than any attack. I will not return. Lumi stood still in the center of the broken room, her body glowing softly, her eyes no longer empty. The alien soldiers did not move at first. Even they needed a moment to understand what had just happened. Then the leader stepped forward slowly, its presence cold and overwhelming. You are not designed to refuse, it said, its voice sharp now. You are property, not an individual. Lumi looked at the leader, her expression calm, but something deeper was there now. Something steady. I am Lumi, she said quietly. The leader paused, just for a second. Then its tone turned harsher. You are Unit 7. No, Lumi replied. Her voice still soft but firm. Behind her, Armin watched, his chest tight with fear and hope at the same time. He did not fully understand what was happening, but he knew one thing: she was choosing. The alien soldiers raised their weapons again, their movements more aggressive now. "Final command," the leader said. "Return. Or be reset." The word reset echoed in the room like a threat. Armin stepped forward quickly, placing himself beside Lumi. Not in front of her this time, but with her. "You're not touching her," he said. His voice stronger now, the leader turned its gaze toward him. "You continue to interfere." Armin did not look away. "Yeah, I do." For a moment, the tension grew thick. Then the leader raised its hand slowly. A different kind of energy began to form. Darker, sharper, more controlled. "This will end now," it said. Before it could release the attack, Lumi moved. Faster than before, faster than the eye could follow. She stepped in front of Armin and raised both her hands. The air around her bent again, but this time it was stronger, more stable. The attack hit, but instead of stopping in the air, it spread out, breaking into pieces of light that faded before touching her. The soldiers reacted instantly, firing together. Multiple beams from different angles, the room filled with flashes of energy. But Lumi did not panic. She moved with calm precision. Each attack slowed, bent, and disappeared around her. Like she was not just blocking, but controlling everything. Armin watched in shock. This was not the same as before. She was not struggling now. She was choosing every move. "Her control has increased," one of the soldiers said quickly. "Emotional influence detected." The leader stepped back slightly, observing carefully. "This is why it must be erased," it said coldly. Lumi heard those words, erased, for a moment. A small fear touched her, a new feeling, sharp and unfamiliar. She looked at Armin again. He was still there, still standing beside her, not running, not leaving. "Stay behind me," she said softly to him. Armin blinked, surprised, but he nodded. Stepping back just a little, now it was her turn. The leader raised its hand again, this time creating a larger field of energy. A containment wave, designed not to destroy, but to control. The wave moved fast, spreading across the room. Walls cracked as it passed. The ground shaking under its force, Lumi stood still, watching it come closer. Her eyes glowed brighter. Inside her, the two forces were still there. Old commands and new feelings. Destroy. Protect. Obey. Choose. She closed her eyes for a brief moment. Then she remembered Armin's voice. "You can choose." Her eyes opened again, clear, focused. The wave reached her and stopped. Not just stopped. It shattered, breaking into pieces of light that vanished into the air. The entire room fell silent again. Even the soldiers froze. The leader stared at her. "This is not possible," it said slowly. Lumi took one step forward, then another. The energy around her was calm now, but powerful, not wild like before, controlled, alive. "I choose," she said softly, each word steady. "I will not destroy." The soldiers did not move. They were waiting for the leader's command. The leader looked at her for a long moment, then spoke quietly. "Then you are no longer useful." Its hand lifted again, but this time Lumi did not wait. She raised her hand slightly, and the leader's movement stopped completely, frozen, just like the attacks before. The soldiers tried to move, but they could not. Something invisible held them in place, not force. Control. Armin stepped forward slowly, looking around in disbelief. "They can't move," he whispered. Lumi kept her eyes on the leader. "I will not let you hurt him," she said. Her voice calm, but filled with something new, something strong. The leader tried to resist, but it could not. For the first time, the power had completely shifted. Lumi was no longer reacting, she was leading. The room was quiet again, but this time it was different. Not fear, not tension, control. Armin looked at Lumi, really looked at her. She was still the same child, small, quiet, but not empty anymore. Something real was there now, something alive. Lumi slowly lowered her hand. The soldiers remained frozen, unable to act. She turned to Asterisk. Part 7. The Soul of a Human. The room was quiet, but not empty anymore. The alien soldiers stood frozen where they were, their weapons still in their hands, unable to move. The broken walls and scattered dust showed how close everything had come to destruction. But it had stopped, not because the power was weak, but because it was controlled. Lumi stood in the center, her soft blue glow slowly fading to a calm light. Her breathing was steady, even though she did not need to breathe. Armin watched her carefully, for the first time. He was not afraid of her power. He was proud of her choice. "You did it," he said quietly. Lumi turned her head toward him. "Did what?" she asked. Armin smiled a little, tired but real. "You didn't become what they wanted." Lumi looked down at her hands, small hands, but no longer empty. "I did not destroy," she said slowly. Armin nodded. "Yes. And that matters." For a moment, everything felt calm, but it did not last. A sudden sharp sound came from outside. More ships, more presence. The leader, still frozen, spoke with difficulty, its voice strained. "You cannot stop all of us." Lumi looked at it. "I do not need to," she said quietly. The leader's eyes glowed brighter. "You will be taken, or erased." Armin stepped closer to Lumi again. His body still weak from earlier, he could feel the danger returning. More enemies, more force, more risk. But Lumi did not move in fear. Instead, she looked at the door, then slowly walked toward it. Armin followed, unsure but trusting her. She opened the broken door and stepped outside. The sky above was no longer empty. Dark shapes hovered silently. Large and powerful, more alien ships. Watching, waiting, the air felt heavy again. But Lumi stood calmly under it. Armin stood behind her, looking up at the massive ships. "They're not going to stop," he said quietly. Lumi nodded once. "I know." A beam of light came down from one of the ships, bright and focused. A voice echoed from above. "Cold and clear, Unit 7. Final command. Surrender." Lumi looked up at the light, her eyes glowing softly. Then she spoke, not loud, but strong. "I am not your unit." There was a pause. Then the sky responded with movement, weapons charging, energy building. They were ready to attack. Armin felt fear again. "Real and heavy, Lumi," he said softly. She turned her head slightly toward him. He saw it clearly now, not emptiness, not coldness, but something warm, something human. "It's okay," she said. Simple words, but different this time. She was not copying anymore. She understood. The ships above fired. Multiple beams of powerful energy rushed down toward them. The ground shook. The air burned with light. But Lumi did not run. She raised her hand slowly, and the world seemed to slow again. The beams stopped in the sky, frozen, just like before. But this time, she did something different. She looked at them and lowered her hand gently. The beams changed direction, moving away from the city, disappearing into the sky without harming anyone. No explosion, no destruction, just control. The ships above paused. This was not expected. The voice returned, but weaker now, uncertain. "Why do you not attack?" Lumi answered simply. "Because I choose not to." There was silence in the sky, something they did not understand. Mercy, choice, humanity, back inside the house. The frozen leader suddenly dropped to its knees as Lumi released her hold. It could move again, but it did not attack. It just looked at her. "You have changed," it said slowly. Lumi nodded. "Yes." The leader studied her for a long moment, then spoke quietly. "This was not your design." Lumi looked back at Armin, then returned her gaze. "No. It was given to me." Armin felt something in his chest tighten. The leader stood slowly, then gave a signal. The ships above began to move away, slowly leaving the sky, not defeated, but no longer certain. The danger faded. The silence returned, this time peaceful. Lumi's glow faded completely now. Her body relaxed slightly, and suddenly, she fell. Armin rushed forward quickly, catching her before she hit the ground. "Lumi," he said, fear in his voice. Her eyes were open, but weak now. "Did I do it right?" she asked softly. Armin nodded quickly. "Yes, you did." She looked at him, her voice softer than ever before. "It feels warm." Armin smiled gently, holding her carefully. "That's called a soul." Lumi closed her eyes slowly, not shutting down, just resting for the first time, not because she had to, but because she could. Armin sat there, holding her, looking at the quiet sky above. Everything had changed. The galaxy had created a weapon without a soul. But they did not understand one thing: a soul can be given, and sometimes it only takes one human to do it.